the fear of having this passion that you cared so much about, that was such a big part of your life, the fear of that going away, and the fact that you were able to come back and then win, dude, that's like, if you stopped right there, that is amazing. Like, that's just a great, like, I just love that story.
Did I tell you about my albatross? Hey, yo, here we go. Come on.
Welcome to another episode of Did I Tell You About My Albatross? I'm your host, Albie. This is the golf podcast for honest degenerates. It's like teaming up with your favorite foursome every week and diving into the best stories in and around golf. You guys ready to tee off? Let's go!
We out here chilling on the right side of the green. Sip a little something, maybe working on.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Did I Tell You About My Albatross? And boy, do we have a good one for you tonight. We've got a special guest here, someone I've been really looking forward to talking to. His name is Alex Romo. He is, I mean, dude, you really need no introduction, man. You are quite the sensation on all social and really for a lot of different things. Initially around golf, but it's evolved. And I'm really interested to hear about your journey and your story. So anyway, welcome to the show, man. Thanks for joining us, Alex.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. That's nice of you to say all that. You're the man.
Yeah, man. Well, let's just dive in here, man. So first of all, let's just start. You just got back from Morocco. I was noticing. Is that right?
I did. Yeah, I just returned a couple days ago from that. Actually, one of my best friends got married in Florida on the back end of that trip. So I flew back to Florida. Tampa.
Dude, that's where I live. That's where you're talking to me from Tampa right now.
Are you kidding me? I just left
dude.
Tampa 2 days ago.
Are you kidding me? That's crazy. That's hilarious. I'm literally doing this, Alex. I'm doing this in a shed. Like, I can touch this. I'm doing this in a shed in my backyard in Tampa. So,
wow. I wish I could remember the place you got married at. I played some golf out there too.
Cool.
So that was, a quick little pit stop after Morocco, and actually in 2 more days, I'm going to be leaving for Puerto Rico. So a lot of international travel in this month, which has been exciting. But Morocco was a blast.
You were there for Pro-Am, right?
I was there working with their tourism board and also participating in the Pro-Am for the PGA Tour Champions event out there. Played with this gentleman named Paul Broadhurst, who's a multiple-time senior major champion and
very cool,
awesome guy, great player. And I had one moment there. Crazy that your show is called Did I Tell You About My Albatross? So I've never had a hole-in-one ever. Been playing since I was 5. I'm 32 now.
Wow.
Lots of hole-outs and exciting things, but never a proper hole-in-one. And on the 17th hole, which was a par 4, 310 yards, slightly downhill, landed like 10 feet short of the pin, rolled straight into the pin at like pretty mellow pace because there were fans up by the green watching, and they're like, yes, it went in the cup and rattled out to the right like 5 feet, and it was on camera and everything. And so I was thinking, wow, that would have been an epic first, hole-in-one technically, but really even better than a hole-in-one. But no totally. Dice. So we're going to Puerto Rico.
Man.
I'm hoping that maybe something happens down there to shake things up a bit.
It's crazy that like we've had this conversation obviously a lot on here because the show's called The Albatross. Let me all right, just for context. And by the way, all my followers and listeners, you guys can tune out for a quick second. Alex, have you pumped this out to your people, man? Like, this is a story really for you and for them, just for context. So the reason it's called Did I Tell You About My Albatross? I love telling the story, by the way, is because member golf tournament, the year's 2020. My buddy and I, we were day 2. We go up to the final hole. We finish on Pine 1. It was a shotgun tournament. So we finished on the first hole, which is actually a par 5. And I hit a good drive, fairway, 247 out, hit my 3-wood, and it goes in. Now, we had 2 buddies that were waiting for us. So we go up to the hole, and I'm like, I thought I hit a really good shot, but we couldn't see it go in. And my buddy's like, hey, my buddy, we have spirit animals. I'll get into all that here in a little bit. But anyway, my buddy Sea Turtle, he was like, hey, man, did you think you hit a good shot? And I was like, yeah, man, I hit that pretty well. He was like, yeah, I went over the green. So I started looking for this thing, Alex. Can't find it anywhere for like a good couple minutes. Like and I'm like, dude, where is this ball? And he said, it went in the hole. And we lost our mind, obviously. So then we go inside and turn our scorecard in. And this is when it gets weird. Turn our scorecard in, and they're like, oh, yeah, you guys were actually 3 shots back going into that final hole. So with that walk-off albatross, you tied for the win. And we were actually doing a Calcutta. We like won thousands of dollars. Dude, Alex, I thought I was gonna be famous. I thought I was gonna have like your social following by now. Like if that was immediate, like, none of that happened, dude. No one cares about my shot. My wife's sick of me everyone's sick of me talking about it. So I'm like, great, I'm gonna start a podcast and I'm gonna, until this thing blows up and until I'm on Sports Center talking to Scott Van Pelt, then I'm gonna keep talking about this damn thing. So anyway, but yes, but to me, man, when I hear stories like you just described, it drives me crazy because there's so many good golfers out there that don't even have a hole in one. And, and then you have like jabronis out there that like are just, 25 handicaps that have multiple, like 5 or 6. It just makes no sense to me. But anyway.
I know. I've had that conversation so many times with friends. It makes no sense, right? It's such a weird combo of skill and luck. There are some people that don't really play that much golf that rack up a ton. And then other people that are great golfers, pro golfers, no dice. Yeah. That's crazy. What an epic story, by the way. Good for you.
Thanks, man. Well, it kind of ties in. The reason I want to share it with you, there's a couple of reasons, but one, because I first of all love talking about it, obviously, but the other reason is because it does tie into a lot of what you and I were talking about before the show here. And I went really deep with this thing. Like I hired a data scientist. And I just imagine like Einstein, like curled up in a fetal position, trying to figure out the math on this because it took him a couple of weeks. And he came back and he said 1 in 600 million were the odds. Now, the reason I hired him to do it is because as soon as that happened, like it just sort of changed a lot of things for me. I just started living my life like anything's possible, like almost like a limitless feeling. And I mean, it's got to be the same feeling people have when they hit the lottery or like, just a really rare thing happens. And if you start paying attention to little things like this and you start having this like growth mindset, what happens, you'll notice it actually happens quite often. It actually happens all the time. We don't really pay attention to it. Maybe it's not an albatross, but it does happen in like little everyday moments. And that's really what this podcast is about. It's about talking about those, albatross-like moments that are just rare and beautiful, whatever they may be. So anyway, that's kind of why that's really why I wanted to share it with you. I
love it. I'll follow up with one more similar story in 30
Please,
seconds.
Yes.
Here.
Awesome.
I was playing a Tiger Woods design course called Paynes Valley in Big Cedar.
I saw some of your footage, man. It looks beautiful.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, it was incredible golf complex. Went there twice last year, actually. And the first hole, 8 a.m, playing the Tiger Woods course. I'm so jacked up, and we're out there to film everything and promote it. So I'm mic'd up. I've got a buddy in the cart with me. It's like a 480-yard par 4, but it's straight downhill. So I hit a okay drive, and it rolls out like 360 or something crazy. So I have a pitching wedge in, 137 yards, and I'm just having so much fun. I'm like, how about a walk-off 2 to start? Like something about like, I think I'm going to make it. And then I did, but the way it went in was crazy. It was like a 2-tiered green, left side higher than the right side, and the pin was on the right side. So it landed like on the slope part in it. So it had backspin, but it kind of looked more like side spin, which on camera looked really cool. It like yanked hard to the right 10 or 15 feet, jarred in, freaking throw my club in the air, just run all the way down, pull it out of the cup.
Awesome.
We had people with us, and it was honestly top 3 most exhilarating, just pure joy moments in my life, all things combined. And yeah, just kind of like you, I got my 5 minutes talking about that one that I've drawn out for almost a year here now.
Yeah. No, dude, keep talking about it, dude. Just keep talking. Because I mean, first of all, I saw it. I mean, the video is great because I had Matt Scharf on from Good.
Oh,
I don't know if you yeah. So he came on, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, and he was talking about obviously he's got these 2 amazing ones on camera, which is like a lot of your stuff's on camera too, which is great. It's going to happen, by the way, buddy. I think I feel it. But like he was talking, and you said the word, like you said joy, and that's really what you see him running down. And yours was very similar because you're running. That feeling is just, it's unbeatable, man. It's just it's incredible. So no, I love that. Tell me a little bit about your background. Like let's just start when you were young. Like obviously you grew up. You said playing golf at 5. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah, I started at age 5. I played a few other sports as well: basketball, baseball, soccer, and water polo was my favorite. Wow. Actually,
water polo, awesome.
Yeah, I was pretty into water polo. I was doing some training with the Olympic team when I was in like 8th grade, and really into it. Played it in high school, but was not much of a future with that sport other than being on the Olympic team.
Right.
And at around age 15 or 16, just decided to hone in on golf because it seemed like that one I could take the farthest and stay healthy and injury-free the longest with it. And so I started focusing on trying to play in college, And I came from a pretty small private high school in Ojai called Villanova. So although I was doing well at golf in our little bracket, it didn't really translate to the Division I visibility scale nationwide. And so I had no offers, but I went to a Division I program anyway, and that was Cal Poly San Luis Obispo in the Central Coast of California, and tried my best to walk on. Failed as a freshman. Last guy cut as a sophomore. Last guy cut again as a junior. Added to the practice roster. Halfway through junior year, called up to the main squad, and then I wound up playing the second half of my junior year, and then a senior year and a fifth year. So I got 2.5 years of D1 experience after, didn't look good for a while there, but eventually persevered, and that was really special to me. That was like, kind of the beginning of what I would say I'm a self-described underdog, always kind of trying to rise from the ashes. I don't think I've ever been the best at anything or the most sure to succeed at anything, but I definitely have had some delusional self-belief and a lot of support from friends and family. And somehow things just always wind up working out. Maybe not as quick as I think that they should or I would like them to, but now that I can look back, it's been a pretty beautiful life, and everything has worked out in my favor, even if I couldn't see it at that time. So that was the first iteration of that in college. And then I was planning on turning pro right after, and I had some nice sponsors lined up and a nice schedule. Wow. And this was summer of 2014. And then a weird injury kind of just manifested out of nowhere. I had a degenerative joint on the inside of my collarbone. It's called the sternoclavicular joint. And it was just like part of it was broken off and floating in like the abyss of my clavicle, and it kind of created this like popping, clicking, grinding, excruciating pain that as a right-handed golfer, anytime I would rotate fully through on a follow through and like wrap around my head, it just ripped that joint open, and I couldn't do it. So did some traditional medicine at first, cortisol shot and a bunch of PT, and we couldn't really figure out, one, why it happened, and two, how we were going to stabilize that joint unless we did reconstructive surgery. And I met with a number of doctors, and they all said, we won't do it because your aorta and major arteries are like within centimeters of that joint, and the risk of nicking it and you bleeding out is like pretty high. So for someone that just wants to like play sports, we're not going to risk 24-year-old kid's life for that. So I felt really stuck, and that was probably my first experience with like pretty heavy depression and just hopelessness of like, damn, I had no backup plan, dude. I didn't go to the career fairs in college. I took no internships. I never for 1 second thought of, probably, I could do this job if golf doesn't work out. It was like golf ever since I was a little guy. And again, leaned on family. We found this experimental medicine, which now is pretty mainstream, but at the time it was kind of out there, and it was called stem cell therapy. Did that for like almost 2 years, where I was going into LA and getting bone marrow drilled out from my spine, and then having that re-injected into this neck area. I was getting like 300 injections every 2 weeks.
Oh my God, dude, that's crazy. What was that like? Just talk, if you don't mind, like just tell me a little bit about like, so that process, because it was so new. I mean, a couple things. One, what made you guys pull the trigger? Because obviously it was probably experimental, to your point. You were just probably that desperate. You just wanted to get it feeling better, and you wanted to take the chance, I guess, right?
Yeah, the doctors that we had met with, the more traditional ones, were like, you will just never be able to golf. And I also was really into lifting weights at that time. I had a real passion for working out, and they said that was not going to be an option either. And so I just kind of felt like rolling the dice. What else was I going to do? Just sit on the sofa and accept defeat? I felt like there was someone telling me there's something we could do, and even though it was going to be very painful, very slow, and very expensive, there was at least a chance, and it wasn't a life-threatening thing like the surgery option. Yeah. So, and to be quite honest, the doctor was really spiritual and just connected with him. His name was Dr. Mark Darrow. Still have a relationship with him. He's still doing it. I'm one of many success stories for him. I'm in his book even, awesome. And just a great guy. Really?
That's cool. Wow.
Ultimately, kind of said that it was a physical manifestation of just the stress and fear of leveling up in life. This thing that I had built up as kind of the thing for me, turning pro and starting my adult life and career, and just not really feeling like I could allow myself to have that success for whatever reason. And I think it just kind of came up with something that would be a believable thing to shut it down. And even it was very real, but the fact that it didn't start from like an injury or a fall, that was the best answer we could come up with. And I just put a lot of trust in him. And I think that probably had a lot to do with why the medicine worked. Just your mind kind of creates your reality. Your perception is your reality in life. And again, this was one of the early examples of that on a big scale in my life. Just crazy belief and support and love from family and this doctor and friends. And yeah, fast forward 2 years later, was swinging a club again. And here's where the story gets
that's
fun.
Amazing. Well, hang on. But all right. So, all right. I want to go back to that if you don't mind. So this doctor, first of all, let's get, what was his name again? I want to give him a shout out.
For sure. Dr. Mark Darrow.
A couple things that come to mind here, dude. Like, I mean, I think I'm a big believer everything happens for a reason. The fact that you met this guy and the fact that he was, I mean, obviously someone that you connected with and that you could trust and that you were willing, I mean, in the state that you were in is, I mean, that's a little miracle. Like, that's what I'm talking about. Like little things like this that like happen. Though you did these like 300 shots every week.
Yeah, it just helps the cells and tissue and cartilage to kind of regenerate and repair itself. Yeah, pretty gnarly stuff if you get a chance to look it up. And it's more common now. But yeah, that was wild. Definitely kind of incapacitated for a while, just sitting on a sofa watching old golf videos. But
there wasn't like an event. There wasn't like where you're like, oh, something cracked or popped. It was just like a real gradual thing where eventually you're just like, man, every time I swing, I'm hearing this clicking noise. And then the pain came after that.
It was actually pretty sudden, and it was 1 week before that first tournament that I was going to play.
Oh, dude.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was like a week before. I was like, wow, this really hurts. And then I took a ton of Tylenol and tried for like one more day, and I was like, nope, I cannot swing. And that was it. That shut me down. No more golf for 2 years. So, yeah, it was a sudden onslaught of just some weird pain that we tried to figure out what the heck caused it. But
I've been hearing this a lot lately too, like as far as this manifestation of like, and bottom line fear, like whatever that fear and it's different probably for everyone, but like, whatever it is to the individual, I mean, it manifests physically in a lot of different ways. And so did he help you? I mean, with him telling you that aspect of it, did that give you enough of what you needed to like sort of, I mean, obviously he was doing the treatments and stuff, but mentally, I mean, was that enough to kind of make it, or did you have to actually go into a deeper dive, to address the mental stuff?
Yeah, no, I put a lot of trust into him, definitely. And I started, my family, I was lucky that I grew up in a household where, mindset stuff and the power of the mind was not considered taboo. It was encouraged. My parents were showing me
great.
There's a movie called The Secret. And
Secret. Yes. My mom did the same thing, man. It was a game changer.
Yeah, we were into that when I was like 12 years old. And my dad was teaching me breathing techniques to deal with fear about, anxiety at school or I remember there was like a camping trip and I was afraid of bears or something. And my dad was teaching me to do deep breathing and stretching with them. So I grew up in a household where that type of stuff was really celebrated and encouraged rather than made fun of or considered taboo. So the foundation was already kind of laid for me by my parents that, I could really affect change in my own life, even on the physical plane, just with my mental activity if I really honed in and focused. And so I just don't think I ever bought into the diagnosis from doctors that I was like incurable and all these things were wrong with me. And so I think that played a huge role in the healing process. And we can get more into this in the future part of our, the chronological progression of my life story. Please, but the one thing that I have been learning more recently, working with meditation coaches and breathwork coaches on some retreats and workshops together, is everything is energy. Us as humans and the entire universe, it's all energy and it can't be created or destroyed. And it's supposed to flow freely through our heart and our body. But stress and trauma and the fight or flight response and hormones like adrenaline and cortisol can block, or just a closed heart from fear or past scarring and trauma can block energy that should be freely moving through your body. Sometimes we out of a defense mechanism or fear, we just clamp down and lock some scarring memory deep down inside of us because it doesn't feel safe to process it, whether that's societal conditioning or our parents or whatever the case may be. And I don't know if I knew at the time what was going on or had the words to describe it the same way I do now, but I really feel like that was an extreme case of me just, I had already kind of, first world problems. I've been lucky and I've had a nice life, and we're talking about playing golf here. But in my own, my own mental plane, which, like we're saying, perception is reality. And so to me, being obsessed with golf, all in on golf, believing I had this big purpose to go chase these dreams, to me, it was like life or death. And I think that just fear of failure or fear of judgment or, not understanding stress management techniques at a young age, I think I just was kind of blocked off, and I wasn't allowing energy to flow freely through my body. And when your body's trying to release stress, it can manifest on the physical plane. You can have literal physical ailments, and it's a good sign. Sometimes it's a sign of you letting go of things or processing things that you locked away 10 years ago in childhood. But I've met countless people with interesting stories like that in my later years now, where it makes me feel a lot less crazy for what I was experiencing at the time, and I really couldn't explain. There definitely were times where I was like, dude, I think you're just full of it, man. Like, there's nothing wrong with you. But then I would pick up a club and I'd be like, no, there's definitely something wrong with me. I just can't explain why.
Yeah, I don't think you should discount that feeling, because it was everything to you. That was like your whole future. Like, that was everything you put it, and so to have that almost feel like it's getting taken away, that's a scary feeling. And it just happened to be golf, but replace it with whatever is most important in your life. That's a serious, that can be a really disheartening thing. So you mentioned depression. Well, all right. So I took you away from this is where it gets fun. So I don't want to, let's go back to that, because I didn't mean to throw you off track there.
No worries. And one silver lining from all of that, as I mentioned, looking back, I feel like everything has worked out in my favor, but in that moment, it felt like this is the worst thing ever. What I learned at the time was a love for social media and trying to build a community and sharing. I had so much time without being able to really do much physically for 2 years there. And I was working a job at the time. I was a caterer, so it's not like I truly just watched TV all day, every day. But the physical activity I was used to with golf in the gym was taken away from me. So I filled that time with sifting back through pictures and videos from my college career, starting to post a little bit on Instagram, and having my first experience with like attracting, little brands here and there for some free t-shirts, or posting about this for $50, and very small scale, small time stuff. But it was the beginning of me gaining belief that, wow, I can actually, I can attract like-minded individuals through the internet. If I share my passions and the things I'm interested in, and I put a lot of work in DMing back and forth with people and supporting other accounts, this could become a really fulfilling, interesting thing where I build a golf community. And then, wow, it looks like there's companies that are interested in people that have an audience. And I don't even think the word influencer was a thing yet in 2014, 2015.
It was 2014? Wow, that's crazy, man.
I had just got Instagram like a year earlier as a senior in college, which is crazy because now every 12-year-old has it and dreams of being an influencer. But I, obviously pretty late to the game. And this was the silver lining in the injury was that I probably wasn't ready for a pro golf career at that point in time anyway. So life probably was like, let's put you on the injured reserve for a little bit. You can figure out, what you're going to do in the future, which is going to be more than just golf. You're going to build a community and try to be a leader of positive impact in the world online. So that was kind of me getting my feet wet with that. So I look back with a lot of gratitude that I was sort of forced against my will at the time, but for good reason, into the lane, which has now turned into, a really awesome career and something I think I'll do for the rest of my life, which is leverage the internet to reach people and spread a message. But the fun part that you asked about was that within my very first month of picking up a club, I was like, let's just send it and play a tournament. And I won like my fourth or fifth thing, which was like 5 weeks after. I wasn't practicing or ready at all. I just literally was like, let's get back out there. And I've told this story a few times. In California, we have a mini tour called the Bo Tour. And just this awesome guy named Bo that used to run something called the Pepsi Tour, which no longer exists. But great mini games, attract they attract PGA Tour players, every now and then that are looking for a game in their off week. And at the time, this guy JJ Spawn, who's now like a multiple-time PGA Tour winner.
Oh yeah.
He was kind of one of the local savages playing on that tour and taking lunch money. Wasn't on the tour at the time, but I was in a tournament that he was in as well, and he was the guy that finished runner-up to me for my first ever pro win.
Wow, that's amazing.
By 2 strokes, and had my girlfriend with me, and it was just this insane high of like, wow, I have no business being good at golf right now. I know my swing is trash. I know my short game's garbage, but this is yet another moment of proving the fact that your mind really is in control of everything.
What was going through your mind? Do you remember?
Yeah, definitely was nervous, but it was just gratitude. It was just like appreciation and gratitude that I could play golf. And that was like screaming so much louder than, over time, the further back in the golf culture you get, the more you kind of get this spoiled brat attitude of complaining about the bad bounces, and you have all these expectations and you think you should be doing better than you are. And before that can creep in, when you're just truly playing out of pure joy for the ability to be like a healthy, physically capable human being swinging a golf club and just enjoying that moment of competing as a pro, when I thought for 2 straight years it might never happen, that weighed heavier than all of the other garbage and allowed me to actually let what skill was in my body come out. And it resulted in some pretty good play for a while there, and eventually caught up with me, and I stopped playing as well. And if I had continued that trajectory, then maybe I would be on the tour at this point. But it was a very early, and it's something that I've tried to find that same just pure enjoyment and gratitude for living life and detachment from outcome. I think ultimately that's what it was. I clearly had no expectation of winning. I just was happy to be there. And it's harder and harder to have that attitude the more and more you work hard at something and you start to believe you deserve good results, and you start to attach to them and identify with them. But if you can really make it simple and take it back to the headspace I was in at that point in time, I think all of us would get more out of ourselves and whatever we're trying to do in life. And it's, I'm happy that I experienced it even once in my life, just an overwhelming sense of gratitude that allowed me to excel at something without getting in my own way. That's not to say that I experience that every tournament, or I don't know if I've ever had that free-flowing state of golf again in my life since then, but I do remember what it felt like, and I'm constantly trying to remind myself, like, dude, gratitude is the answer. Like, you are in your own way. You think you're so much more important and take yourself so much more serious than you should. Go back to that like 5-year-old attitude you had of, it's like, wow, this is just so sick to be playing golf.
I've heard you say this now twice. Didn't deserve it. And I've had these feelings before too, man. It's such a debilitating feeling because it can be overwhelming. Like, I mean, and if you really feel that way, then, kind of like what we're talking about here, if thoughts become things, it's going to become the reality. So I think gratitude is an excellent way to combat that. Like, I think gratitude is a place of abundance, right? And the fear of having like what you cared and like this passion that you cared so much about, that was such a big part of your life, the fear of that going away, and the fact that you were able to come back and then win, dude, that's like, if you stopped right there, that is amazing. Like, that's just a great, like, I just love that story. And I wanted, if you don't mind, I would love to dive into a little bit to the social stuff. I just started social. Like, I mean, I had a Facebook account, but like, here's the thing. It's funny. I didn't post anything. Like, I've got 2 little ones. I didn't post anything from when I got married, which I married the most amazing person ever. Like, I should have posted some stuff. If I'm going to post stuff, should definitely mention that. Should definitely mention when my kids got born, like the happiest days of my life. And then all of a sudden I'm like, I'm going to post about this albatross and this podcast I'm doing, which I had to like get over the fact that like, this is what brings me to social media. And then my wife was like, really? Like, what about everything else that we've been doing? Like, but, so, I just wonder what the environment was like. Was it like, how fast did you catch on?
Yeah. Boy, it was a little tough for me too. I definitely didn't grow up like obsessed with social media or anything. I think I barely had a Facebook as a senior in high school, and then barely got Instagram as a senior in college, and pretty much just lived in the real world until I was about 23 or 4, sitting on the sofa doing the whole posting when I was injured for a bit there. But it's definitely something that I was inspired by Gary Vee, one, and then
I love that
podcast.
Guy. Yeah.
I think it was called The Hustle Sold Separately. And it might have been with Case Kinney, who, if I'm correct in that assumption, he's still doing content, and I see him on my feed all the time. I could be misquoting that, but that's not the important part. Basically, it was some guys talking about document the journey before you've done whatever it is that you say you're trying to do, whether that's becoming the world's top chef or a pro golfer or a great husband and father. Doesn't matter. Whatever your goals are, they're relatable to probably 50 million other people on the planet that have a similar goal somewhere else in the world. And the point, the internet is a crazy place. There's a lot of negative things as well. But for those that are seeking inspiration, education, the more helpful side of the internet, you can play a huge role in that, even if you don't want to be an influencer or have an online business. It's not only, it's helpful for yourself because it creates some accountability. And if you make a goal of documenting your journey to lose 10 pounds in 100 days, and you make a commitment to post one video per day or one progress picture per week or one blog post, it's going to give you a little bit of pride in what you're trying to do, even if you only have 5 people watching, because it just makes it feel like, okay, it's a little bit bigger than me. Now we're out of my own head with this set of goals, and we're in the world, and some people are watching and rooting for me or rooting against me. And either way, it's motivating because this goal matters to me, and I want to show people I can do it. These podcasts were kind of, talking about, on ESPN, we watched 30 for 30, talking about people that are already really accomplished and going to their origin story, and that is inspirational and motivating to listen to the progression of someone from floor 0 to the top floor. What's even more motivating is if you share the story and the ending of it hasn't been written yet, and you're able to draw people in through shared interests to what you're working on, and maybe you can learn from them at the same time, and you guys grow collectively as a community through collaboration and talking about your own unique experiences, what's working, what isn't working on this journey to lose 10 pounds in 100 days, or whatever the thing is that you're building community around. And that resonated with me at the time in 2015. And I was like, you're right. I'm going to start this pro golf journey. I have no clue how I'm going to make it, but one, for my own purposes, to show my family and to watch when I'm an old guy, I want to document it. iPhones are a big thing now. It's easier than ever to film. I think it's going to be a cool journey, progressing from one tour to the next and playing Q schools all over the place. I want to film it. And then 2, I felt like, if I do make it, wow, we've got a pretty awesome story here of the fact that I actually was filming it when I was injured with this weird collarbone thing, and everyone was saying I would never golf again. Let's start filming now, rather than waiting till, you're more bulletproof to criticism because you're already on this tour and nobody can, it's kind of like it's a fear of failure defense mechanism, I think, that prevents most people from posting, because almost, everyone's living a story, and everyone's story is relatable to a lot of other people. And it's very fulfilling when you start to connect with people that do resonate with your story, and there's connections between you and these other people based on these common interests. That's an awesome way to use the internet, and an awesome way to add and enrich everyone's lives, in my opinion. And what stops all of us from being players in this content ecosystem is just that fear of looking dumb and being made fun of for having some big goal and not having the tangible, proof yet that we're anywhere near our goal. And then that opens us up to criticism by, mostly people that don't even know us and aren't our real friends, if they're going to make fun of something like that. So I get it. And I've, struggled with it my whole life as well. But I think I'm glad I listened to Gary Vee, and I'm glad I listened to that podcast and just kind of got over myself, and little by little started trying to bust the camera out in public and film things and talk to it. And, it still is hard to this day. Every single time that I whip out my camera.
What do you mean? What's hard? I mean, dude, you're like, I watch your stuff and you got it dialed in. What do you mean?
Yeah, I mean, I feel resistance and discomfort every single time I start filming myself doing something, because in my mind, other people are watching and they're like, you must think you're so cool. You must think you're more important than everyone else. Hurry up and hit this shot, get out of the way. Or like, you're in the way of my gym set, or why are you talking to a camera in public? And it's just like, probably no one is thinking that anyway. Everyone's worried about their own stuff. But it's still like I wouldn't say I'm a natural born, like, actor Hollywood guy. I'm honestly, I can do it, you know, and especially when I realize that it has a purpose and it's bigger than me, and it's you know, it's all for a reason that's a positive reason that motivates me. But yeah, it's definitely I wouldn't say I was born to be an influencer or anything like that. I just learned about the power of the internet and trying to take advantage of it.
Well, I think you're using it for the right things too. I think that's a big part of it. So that's automatically, I feel like, going to propel you a lot quicker than, you know, other people trying to do it for the money or for whatever, you know, fill in the blank. But I love the idea, man. I love the idea of documenting the journey. And the way that you describe that's really interesting. And then the other part that is, it's also refreshing to hear someone like yourself, because I mean, being a guy that's, you know, trying to throw out some content and I take it serious. Like, I put a lot of heart, a lot of energy, and a lot of work into it, and it's a grind. Like, it's like trying to figure out what will resonate with people. I mean, I think your point there is at least for me well taken, because you just have to kind of do what maybe is important for you. And there's going to be enough, if you put enough of it out there, then there's going to be enough people out there that will probably find it interesting eventually. And, you know, I think just being genuine and true, like not necessarily looking for the latest trend and trying to like piggyback off of what's going viral, but more importantly, like just what makes you, like, you know, what gets you excited. I guess getting back to like your journey as a professional golfer. So we left off where we were doing some of these tours. We just won this event. So like, what happened after that then?
Yeah, we're in 2016, and I was still splitting time as a caterer. And then about a year from that point, I would become a caddy as well at a club here in California called Sherwood. And, you know, from then until 2020 was kind of when I had a bigger break on social media, and that became more of my career. I worked those jobs and kind of was one foot in the golf door and one foot in the, you know, small time job door, just because I never made cuts at the golf. I never was like profiting. You know, I had 3 wins at this point as a professional, but all on smaller tours. So it's not like I got some $100,000 payday or anything like that. Yeah. And I, you know, just kept working these side jobs, and eventually, you know, I played on the Dakota Tour in 2017 and 2019, and that was this pretty well orchestrated mini tour in the Midwest that would take place over about 3 months in the summer. You play like 18 tournaments in this really rapid fire order, and I got to be around some really world class golfers on that tour and see exactly what it takes to win. And a lot of those guys are having success at the next level now: Korn Ferry, PGA, Canada, Latin America. And a lot of them are close buddies just from that Dakota's tour. So I definitely, you know, the fire was growing, even though I wasn't having tangible success, like shooting 65s and making cuts and winning. I still knew that it was worth my time to pursue, and I could eventually figure it out if I could just free myself up to pursue it for an extended period of time. I kind of was, you know, 2016, 17, 18, 19 were all years of like 3-month sprint at golf, because I had either got some sponsorship money or worked for long enough to save it up. And, you know, I didn't practice much when I was working. So I would go out on the tour and be really rusty and sloppy. And then at the end of the 3 months, things would kind of be clicking, and I'd be like, God, I am so bummed that I'm out of money, and now I got to go back home and make the next 20 grand to do the next run. And that cycle was maddening, but also inspiring, because it's like, man, I see myself rapidly progress when I'm able to apply myself, you know, not even fully, but just mostly apply myself to this game and be on the road competing for a couple months. I think I have it in me, maybe not to be the best player in the world, but to definitely take it to a higher level than the mini tours that I've been playing at. And I'd like to see myself have that opportunity. And so that persisted 2016, 17, 18, 19, all the while making Instagram videos, doing the best that I could to, you know, keep editing things and keep putting it out there and keep making my recaps of these tournaments. So it's all growing, you know, on a small scale. And 2020, obviously COVID hits. And I had sort of already had this realization at the end of 2019, start of 2020. And I believe March of 2020 it was when COVID shut down everything in California. But interestingly enough, just a couple months prior to that, I had already kind of written a lot of notes about the fact that I was realizing my highest value in life was no longer to be a professional golfer and swing this piece of metal better than everybody else in the world. It just finally was clicking, like, God, what a dumb life purpose. Like, it's great, you know, at least it's a positive thing. You're not like doing something bad with your life, but come on, man. Like,
it's silly. It's a game. I know.
It's a game, you know, like there's more to life than that, and you have more to offer the world than that. Let's think about what really fires you up. What are the highest highs you've ever experienced in life? And it was an easy answer. I was like, connection with other humans, like deep conversations, helping someone that's coming to me with a problem, just experiences with friends and family. Like, I love spending 10 hours talking to someone and getting deep and philosophical. You're a communicator, and you're an empath. I didn't even know what that word was at the time, but definitely a sensitive person that has a desire to help humanity in some way and enjoys feeling valuable to other humans. If I feel like I can do something that helps someone else and it's based on my own experience, those are the times where I'm like, wow, today was a great day. Like, I had a great talk with person X, Y, and I would love to hang out with them again in the future and have more feelings like that. So that was all clicking for me. And I was like, well, what should we do with this? We were fairly well connected now in the golf world. I've met a lot of inspiring people. I'm not sure, candidly, if I'm going to make it to the levels that I'm trying to make it to or not. And I'm getting close to 30 and feeling a little less okay with being broke as I felt in my mid 20s. And just a little more like, I always want to golf, but what are we doing here? Yeah. And so I had kind of conceded that I might not play that much in 2020. And I was going to try to figure out social media and see if I could develop, a more powerful audience and start doing some of the things that I felt like I was already doing just in real life in terms of, helpful conversations with people, sharing my experiences with mental health or fitness or relationships and feeling good about myself for contributing to someone else's life in that way. I had already said I was going to do that on social media, and then life just kind of teed it up for me and again said, sit down, you're not golfing anymore. You're going to have to figure something else out in March, because even pro golf shut down for a while there. And again, shout out Gary V. He was screaming about TikTok at this point in time and saying this is the most insane opportunity we're ever going to see in our entire lifetime to gain an audience and attention for free, even if you're nobody, even if you have no Instagram following and you're not famous for any reason. You could have 1 million followers on TikTok and change your life in 6 months if you just understand the language of this platform and take the time to figure it out and check your ego at the door. Don't say, oh, it's for 13-year-olds. Like, I'm almost 30. I'm too whatever for this. I always look to Gary V as prime example of somebody who is ageless, really. It is not too cool to try anything at any age and is living proof that it can work, and so I had a tremendous amount of respect for him, and I did go all in on TikTok, and it did work. By the end of 2020, I had amassed 1 million followers there, and that put enough credibility to my name as being able to garner attention that it gave me the confidence to take it further these next couple of years and really refine what my purpose is online. You mentioned earlier in your own journey the desire to be authentic and not follow trends and things that may get you more views in the short term. But if your goal is to be a long-term part of the conversation of creating content and doing something either educational or inspirational or helpful in some way with it rather than purely entertaining, if that's your goal, then the attitude of a little bit slower growth in the name of authenticity rather than, immediate growth by chasing trends and virality, that was something I learned the hard way, because I did get in a crew of other influencers, like a little group chat, and worked with this mentor who actually was an ex-employee of Gary V and knew a lot about TikTok. He, I took the advice, but it didn't come from my own mind. I was heavily pushed in the direction of dumbing myself down, and I've always been this way, the way I am right now, kind of a long form guy that enjoys hours long conversations and wants to talk about, I love to laugh and I love comedy and I have fun with life, but if I were to self-assess, I'd say I am a pretty serious person, and I do, we get one shot at life as far as we know. So to me, it's not a joke, and I like to try to max it out the best I can. And so that's always how I've been. But some of these people in LA that I viewed as successful in the industry I wanted to be successful in kind of advised me to, turn that off for the time being and just figure out how to make 5 to 10 second videos, figure out how to follow trends. If you ever want to, have an audience and do any of the positive things you want to do, you have to grow first. You can't just, because it's true. I was struggling. I was trying to make very long form stuff. I was seeing it work for other people, but failed to make the connection that people actually cared about what those other people said because they had amassed a following and had done a number of things that they were known for. And at that point in time, nobody knew me for anything. And so it just wasn't hitting when I tried to really speak my mind about different topics. And so I eventually submitted to that advice and figured it out. Definitely learned how to follow trends on TikTok and learned how to just do whatever you needed to do to get views. And it did not feel good at the end of the year. It felt like I had made up my mind that I would get to 1 million, and then at 1 million I would pivot. Then I would be like, hey, what's up, guys? Like, I actually have a lot more to me than you've seen. I'm not just an entertaining, smiling kid. Like, I want to talk about some real stuff. I was wrong in assuming that it would be easy to pivot, because I think I attracted an audience that wasn't interested in that. And then did you
get the 1 million? Did you actually hit the mark of the 1 million at the end of the year?
I did. Oh, wow. Yeah, I did it by October of 2020. Yeah, it was about 6 months after starting TikTok.
Oh, wow. And then you tried to pivot?
I tried to pivot, and up till this day, it's been tough. I think if I could give advice to somebody just starting, it would be, don't fall into that trap of thinking that, it's just a life thing, right? Like, there are no shortcuts. Anything worth doing is going to take time. So if somebody sells you a package of being able to skip to 1 million followers, which is a lot of people, it's like that shouldn't happen fast. If you're doing something that's appealing to that many people, you're doing something wrong, because it just, you don't want to be that in tune with the masses. You want to kind of be true to yourself and in your own. I believe, at least. And so I kind of have shifted my perspective in recent years and almost been grateful for the slowed growth that I've experienced based on, or compared to what I was seeing in 2020. Because to me, it's indicative of the fact that I am being more true to myself, and I don't need 30 million followers to have a very happy, fulfilling, successful 30-year run at this. I just need the right people. And the more life I live, the more I realize that, I have a fairly unique set of interests, and I'm not everyone's cup of tea, a little too deep for some, and that's okay. It's more important to just stay true to myself and attract the right people and turn off the people that aren't going to be into that anyway. And that means, you don't get to grow 1 million followers every 6 months, end on end. It's just, that would only work if you're more of a traditional entertaining vlogger and making stuff that really appeals to 15-year-olds. So it was an interesting journey. Grateful for all of it, all learning lessons, but kind of approaching it different these days.
Alex, you know what's weird, man? Like, I literally came across this today. The universe is crazy, man. Literally today, a guy trying to grow his YouTube channel. I've got like a handful of subscribers, by the way. It's we're just getting going, but it's just funny because I came across something today, and it was talking about this exact thing. It was talking about, because I do shorts. We take a lot of these podcasts and then we'll chop them up into shorts and stuff. And I post them on my regular YouTube channel. Some of those have done really well, especially with like, Matt Sharp's a great example with his audience. Like, a lot of them were able to see some of the stuff on our channel, which was great. But what's interesting is this guy was saying that all the success he was having with the short form, it was taking away from the long form, because what was happening is the short form people would come over to the long form and they would only stay for a second or two and then they would leave, which was just killing the algorithm. So all of those videos started going down, and it was a different audience. So basically what he was saying is the exact same thing you are. It's like, it's a different audience that wants different things. So his suggestion was actually to have, to separate, like, if you want to do short form, sure, but separate it, because that audience is probably going to want, something more quick. And then, and then there's a certain way that you can maybe build it to where you can attract them to the long form. But, I completely agree with what you're saying. I think that if you can just have a much smaller subset of people that really just value what you're saying, what you're doing, and really appreciate, your journey, then I think you're going to have a lot more success. And what you're like, I can tell, man, your ultimate goal is to really help people and to really find those people that you can help. I think you're going to have a lot more impact doing it that way.
I totally agree. I just think of how I use the internet, and on Instagram and TikTok, for example, my algorithm is really well filtered to where it just shows me things I'm interested in that are helpful, tips about self-improvement and life, and I love what it shows me. But it comes at you quicker than you can digest it. And so at the end of every day, I've noticed that I've saved like 45 videos from these different platforms, Instagram and TikTok, and with the pure intention of like revisiting them and implementing what I've learned. And it just doesn't happen. It's just, it's almost like a form of dopamine. You feel like you're improving your life because you're always sifting through these different things that are helpful. But the things that I actually learn from and improve my life with are like hour-long YouTube videos, 2-hour-long like courses and things where you it's not as stimulating and hyper edited and engaging as the short form content is that's doing well and going viral. But at least where I'm at right now and where I hope to position myself for those watching my content as well would be more of like a YouTuber, and then moving into even courses and private coaching and stuff, where I don't think there's that much help you can do in 10 seconds, no matter how awesome your editing and stuff is. It's better than nothing, and I certainly still support creating positive content in any length. But I definitely, at some point, I think I'm going to pull back from the short form platforms and just try to go all in on, less. I'm going to intentionally make it not punchy, because I don't want to mess with people's attention span and give them a new angle and a new clip to look at every 1.5 seconds so that they don't scroll down in the comments or pick up their phone and text someone. Like, I genuinely believe that one of the biggest epidemics going on in the world right now is just a messed up attention span, and that leading to all kinds of, challenges in life, and depression and anxiety, and an inability to form a real connection and relationship with friends, with family, with your partner. And I feel like I already don't really enjoy feeding into that, even though I'm doing my best to be positive, and I do try to make longer videos on Instagram and TikTok than the average person, knowing that they're not going to perform as well, and knowing that that's still more true to me than trying to spit it out in 5 seconds. But even that, I feel like I'm still a part of this perpetuation of an infatuation with, short form creators and viral videos. And there's a deep part of me, and I've been saying this for like 5 years in my notes, that at some point I think I will try to encourage people to just not use these short bite-sized platforms as much, and just seek education online, and accept that if you really want to learn something or really want to change your life in any capacity, it's not a quick fix, and it's not something flashy or crazy. It's just, you got to do the work, just like in golf, just like in the gym, just like in a marriage and a friendship, in school. Anything of value takes a lot of time and a lot of hard work. And above golf and above any of the other things I talk about, that's kind of foundational Alex Romo philosophy. And I think at some point I hope to like really make that a more widely accepted thing.
What I love about this whole thing, man, is I think personally, this is actually the best thing that could have possibly happened to you. And I'll explain why. So you were talking about, wow, I'm going to document my journey as a golfer. And if I make it on tour, and I know you're still trying, like, I know that's not completely dead. And I know you're still trying to, to compete and stuff, but I think it's actually going to be a more beautiful journey to actually the fact that you didn't. And now you've sort of pivoted and evolved into much, much more, man. Like, it's a much cooler story, in my opinion, much more depth. And to your point, I mean, the other one is just you swinging a stick, but this is actually, you could help a lot of people. And I think that's a much cooler story. So
I agree. I agree. Definitely. The golf is just a bonus if that ever clicks at some point. It's mostly just, it's an arena to push myself. I love being able to compete against other people that are the best in the world at what they're doing. That makes me feel like I can respect myself if I step into the battlefield with the real dogs. And so I'm going to always enjoy doing that, but it no longer holds the same weight that it did of like, I suck as a human if I don't succeed at this. Because now I really feel like we're gaining momentum, like you said, in a totally different realm that all was opened up by the pursuit of golf and then the challenges of that and diving into content and storytelling. But yeah, it's different ethos on my life at this point. So it's cool. Been fun to live.
Can you tell me a little bit about, like, so when because I mean, you're golfing at a very high level, and I've got like some of our really good friends here in Tampa, actually. Shout out to Brad Bruner. He was on the Corn Ferry Tour. He's a good friend of ours anyway, friend of the show. He's been on a couple times. It's interesting talking to him because this guy, we've got some really good players at our club. I'm talking plus, there's one guy at our club right now, +8. I mean, he's unbelievable. Like he's on the Canadian tour. He, he's right there. Like he's actually got, like, he's right there. And we're kind of following his journey. He strikes the ball better than anyone I've ever seen besides Brad. Brad's this, like, I mean, them two are like, and dude, the difference between, and I'm like a 4 or 5 handicap, and we've got some other good players at the club, but the difference between like Brad and this guy, Brandon, I mean, it's a different level. And then the fact that, like, the idea that Brad just didn't, like, he finally, kind of like what you were saying, he was like, okay, I got a kid now, I'm traveling constantly. He was on the Corn Ferry Tour. And I mean, yeah, that's a money tour, but I mean, you're still not making, like, unless you're like the top 5, you're not really making a crazy living. He's like, dude, it's not worth it. Like, it's just not, like, and so it's shifted. But, and I was talking to him, like, what is the difference in your opinion between someone like that is that good, and then that next level of PGA guys? And then in my opinion, there's like multiple layers, even in the PGA, where you have like the top 10, and like those guys are like completely different than the guys that just are, there for a short stint. Like, what is the difference, man? Like, do you know, like, what's your take on it?
Yeah, the guys that I've seen that have been the most effective just have the most unbelievable confidence in themselves. If they vocalized publicly how they actually felt about themselves, they'd be viewed as just the biggest cocky douchebags ever.
Really?
And most golfers are very nice guys, so they wouldn't say that publicly. But yeah, some of my best friends that have been the most successful on the Dakota Tour, and then have taken it from there to the Corn Ferry, and have even played a few tour events. Those guys have absolute God complex and think that they are the God's gift to earth at this sport of golf. And I don't think that they're born that way. I think that you develop confidence by proving to yourself through actions repeatedly that you are who you say you are. And I think the quickest way to get there is to look at someone that's uber successful in a field you want to be good at, whether it's business, golf, the gym, and be honest with yourself about what they're doing every day. And so for these golfers that I'm speaking of, that's what they do. They're not making social media videos. They're not thinking about what impact can I have in the world and all these different things. They literally just want to be the best at golf and smash everybody in the tournament every week. That's where their focus is, and that repetitive actions daily to putt and chip and play the practice rounds and work with coaches, that breeds the confidence. It's not fake confidence. It's not fake it till you make it. It's like they really do think that they're the best because they're showing themselves every day that they're doing what the best would do. And it doesn't happen quickly, but if you repeat it over time with enough consistency, I think that's where that crazy self-belief comes from. And that's, in my opinion, the only difference between the guys that still strike it exceptionally well and do all the things just like a tour player would do, but don't have the same success. I would put myself in that category, not necessarily right now, but at the times when I've been the most practiced and the most in competitive flow, I've felt like there is a very minimal difference between myself and the guys that are winning in terms of ball striking or in terms of anything physical. But I think I've worked the hardest that I could for my set of circumstances in terms of needing to, like, try to figure out how to do social media and all the different side things that I've done to keep going and not have a real job over the last 10 years. But, my attention has been totally split. And so although I've given golf all that I've had to give it, I've always known that other guys are giving it way more. And I think when it comes down to a real pressure situation and me versus one of them, they're always going to get me because I'll take myself out of it. I have that, lack of belief in my mind. We judge ourselves the same way we judge other people, which is on actions. And so you watch somebody go to the gym 50 days in a row and you're like, wow, that's like a really healthy dude, or that's a bodybuilder or something. And if you see yourself kind of sporadically hit the gym or sporadically eat healthy, you just don't have that. It's not your identity. It only becomes your identity after X amount of days without fail doing the thing again and again and again. And so, yeah, that's, again, in the future, something that I'm really hoping to split test and see if it is true in my life the same way I'm talking about it. I think if I could buy myself 3 years of uninterrupted time at golf, I may see that same effect that I've watched some of my friends who I don't think they have different DNA. I don't think there's, anything other than their actions that are making them think that they have this, God complex of being the best ball striker on the planet. And it's cool to see. Humans truly can do whatever they think they can do.
Anything's possible. Anything's possible, dude.
Literally.
An albatross to win a tournament, or you fill in the blank. But I completely agree. One of my co-hosts for the podcast, he is that's what he does. He has actually a golf academy they're starting here in Tampa. He's really, his background is tennis, so his passion's golf. But he was a world-class tennis player. He's coached, his tennis academy. He's had some of the top 5 players in the world, men and women, and including gold medal winners for, Grand Slam winners and so on. And he is a performance coach. So he really builds teams around these professional athletes. And it takes that at that level at tennis. And the same thing's true in golf for sure. And we're talking physios, we're talking, mental, you name it. And, the mental side is just really fascinating to me because, he said the same thing. You take someone I don't know if you followed Full Swing. I'm sure you did, right? It was just interesting to see Damon, because he's such a good dude. I saw a couple pictures with you too. So he seemed like just how is he, by the way? Is he a nice guy?
Super cool. Same as he is on TV. Yeah.
Dude,
cool.
I would love to meet him. He seems so down to earth and just such a good guy. But anyway, he was saying a guy like him who it's just interesting because he is such a good golfer at that level. And you hear him talk to himself and it's and we've had this conversation before. I'm like, this guy doesn't have that confidence. And he's like, yeah, he does. He's like, he does. There's no way he could be where he's at and didn't have that confidence. There's no way. I know he's saying all of that probably to and that's his own way of dealing with something, but he's definitely got that extra layer of something that, that others might not. So I don't know. It's just interesting.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you. Definitely.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about your new journey. So obviously the physical side and health is just, it seems like that's been, it sounds like even from your injury and everything else, is that where it all started? Is that where the passion came from and your focus on it?
It's been present my whole life. My dad helped me build a gym when I was 13 here at the house. And I always throughout high school and college hated the stigma that golfers were just not really athletes and not in good shape. And so I wanted to look not like a golfer always. I wanted to be strong and muscular and hang with the basketball and the football guys and lift with them. And so it's been present before the injury, that desire to kind of just be a well-rounded athlete. And it's something that'll always be important to me. Absolutely. It's just the most fair thing I've ever done in life, working out at the gym. If you pick up this weight and then you pick up a heavier weight next week, and if you go home and eat this food and sleep, you will watch your arms or chest or legs get bigger. And to me, that was so refreshing being a golfer, because I felt man, I'm not sure if golf really always works like that. Sometimes I feel
that's so true.
You know what I mean? I'm more practiced and I'm dialed in, and I got the shanks all of a sudden. And it's what is that?
It's so unfair. It's probably the most unfair thing that you could do.
Totally. So I always loved the gym. That was my safe haven where it would never lie to me. The weights are honest. So that's always going to be a part of it. And in the more recent years, the whole mental component and spirituality has become as much, if not more, fascinating to me and important to prioritize. I've definitely, maybe that was bred from just a lot of struggle and a lot of challenge. Again, first world problems. I have never been, unsafe or in a country torn by war or anything like that. But
in my
own headspace, I definitely have felt pretty jacked up at times. And I think, when you have dark points or real challenges, that's really the biggest blessings in life, because that's when you start trying to figure things out. You know, if you're not in that much pain, you're not going to do anything to fix it. But if you're in like debilitating pain, mentally or physically, that's what spurs action. And then, you know, that's life, by the way. It's just constant ebbing and flowing of ups and downs, or perceived ups and downs. Really, it is what it is. And you're the one attaching a label that this is a good emotion, this is a bad emotion. And we have this false expectation that, you know, life is beautiful and everything is awesome when we're experiencing good things. But then when we're not, we're like, life sucks. And I'm not saying everyone's like that, but a lot of us have that attitude, and it's like, dude,
yeah.
And me too. And the struggle is the goal is to continually improve that and be more okay with when life gives you a tough hand, and be like, okay, you know, this is tough right now, but I will learn something from it. And guess what? It's going to pick back up. And then when I'm up, don't get too high, and don't get this high and mighty complex thinking that it's never going to fall, because it will. And then accept that fall graciously. And same with golf, you know, birdies and bogeys. Same with it, you know, everything in life works this way. Energy is always balancing out. And I think it's taken me a while to try to come to terms with that and start to accept it. Definitely fought with myself for a while about why my headspace was rattled in my late 20s. I definitely felt like the golf wasn't working out, but I didn't know what, you know, if I could make this social media content thing work, or if I even would be good at it. And it just, you know, midlife crisis, whatever you want to call it. But
yeah,
I think that kind of pushed me more in the direction of finding some peace internally, rather than, you know, I think in my 20s I did it more through friends and going out and partying, and, you know, more of the traditional socially accepted Western culture ways of dealing with issues. And that was ineffective for me and unsustainable. And I've definitely, I mean, it's not like I just learned about meditating this year, but this 2023 and 2024 is when I've started to take it more seriously. And I've sought out a great coach. His name is Light Watkins. I've been on two workshops, and then I actually did like a week-long retreat for New Year's this past year in Mexico with him and a small group of people, and studied Vedic meditation. And we did a lot of unpacking of stress and trauma, and just trying to deeply rest the nervous system and just be with yourself, sit with yourself, deal with it's kind of painful when you're used to being hyper stimulated. And I find myself really struggling, because, dude, my screen time is like 12 hours a day, every day.
Is it really?
Yeah,
I was going to ask about that.
It's justified. I don't, at this point, as a one-man show, I don't know how else I could be communicating with the world as frequently as I am, and as purposefully as I try to, if I didn't put that type of time and effort into it. But boy, it's tough on a human brain to deal with that much information coming in all the time. And so the meditation is something I'm excited to learn more about. And really what it is just the removal of doing things. No Netflix, no social media, no talking to a friend, no listening to music. Just stop, just sit there. And I think at least my experience so far has been that's really scary. You know, it's very hard to just let your brain yap at you for 8 straight hours you know, if you haven't done much of that in a while, chances are all the things that you're pushing down that you don't want to address or deal with, they're still there. They never go anywhere. The human brain is a computer that can remember what happened to us when we were 3. It's out of survival. It's trying to remember painful and traumatic things, store them as stress triggers, and then in the future, when something that looks or sounds like that painful experience from the past, we're going to close off to it because we don't want to die, whether that's figuratively or literally. And so it's a beautiful thing, the way our mind protects us, but ineffective in our 2024 society, where most of the things that stress us and cause us anxiety are not threats at all and are just figments of the imagination, and we need to let the thought pass straight through us. So this whole world of meditating and being still and sitting with yourself, and then breath work, which is something else I've been really interested in, and ice baths and cold exposure. These are kind of like accelerated stress releases and accelerated, chill pills for the nervous system. And definitely there's a lot of levels to it that I could take way further than I have. But I think I'm on the right path and starting to tap into some things that, similar to the weightlifting, will benefit me just for life. And then things that I want to obviously share as well. I keep investing heavily, not only my time and energy, but also money into learning these things and putting them into practice myself. And, that's twofold. One, it's to try to improve my own life, but pretty much everything I do nowadays is through the framework of like, this is something that I can share with other people.
Love it.
Usually it's first my family and friends. And then once I've got a little bit of practice talking about whatever the thing is, and I feel like I can explain it coherently, then I'll open my phone up and try to put it on a video or whatever. And that's enjoyable for me, because I do think the reason I got into these things was other people that I viewed as cool, whether they were golfers or influencers or friends, started talking about something that was a little taboo. The breath work, to me, that was taboo like 1 or 2 years ago. And then some cool people started talking about it. And I'm like, what's this all about? And that's all it takes. Then you experience the benefit for yourself, and then boom, now you're next in line that other people, whether you know it or not, are watching you. Whether you're an influencer or not, everyone is looked up to by someone. And what you're doing and saying and interested in does matter. And it's a very motivating way to go through life, just treating yourself like you're in a movie, like you're the main character in a movie, and you're responsible to do your best every day to live a life that others would be proud of, and you would want your kid to watch and look up to, whether you have a kid or not. I find myself framing a lot of my actions through like fatherhood at this point, even though I'm not, currently on a path trying to have a kid or be married or anything like that. I think that everything I'm doing online and in my own life, just constantly striving to improve and then share with others, that's all practice for like being a good leader, which you could probably speak to more than me. I feel like that's what it is to be a father and a husband, right? It's just standing for something and leading by example.
Yeah, for sure, man. I mean, I think that's when it actually clicked for me. Like you're way ahead of the curve than I was. Like I've had to, Alex, I mean, the way I've had to learn everything is because I've had to learn the hard way, man. I've had to make a lot of mistakes and learn from it that way, which it's okay. I mean, I think that's another way that you can learn. And I also, dude, you're saying some really insightful things here, at least for me, because you said everyone has someone that looks up to them. And, the first thing that came to my mind are my kids. And until I had kids, I didn't really look at it that way. And, you see your kids and they're sponges, right? So like they're running around, everything you say and do, they pick up on. And, you start to realize like, oh man, I need to really be the best me, not just for me anymore, but just so they can be the best them. I mean, you've referenced your dad. I mean, I can't even, count how many times on this pod. And I love it because that's how big of an influence he was. And look how impactful he was in your life. And look at the things that you're doing. It's all probably because of the things that he did out of love for you, like growing up. And I mean, it's a shame that like not everyone has that, but like, dude, that is a special gift that hopefully you'll be able to pass on. And, you can help people, at least with some sort of flavor of that. But the other thing too, you had mentioned like you're really good at being able to explain some of this stuff. So like I caught your video on the cold plunge, and I've got a bunch of buddies around here that they've been trying to get me to do this cold plunge stuff for a long time. And we actually have one at one of the clubs here in Tampa, not at our club, but a different one. And we were playing the other day. And he was like, all right, man, get there at like, 7 a.m. for, we'll do the cold plunge before we go out and play. And I'm sitting there in bed, and it was like a cold morning here in Tampa, which means it's like 65. I'm like, I don't know, man. That's I could stay here under the covers, and so I didn't do it. But like, man, I've heard so many things. And the way that you described it, it made a lot of sense. Finally, you're like, it spikes like your adrenaline and like all the like your fight or flight, and then when you get out is really where the benefit happens, because then your stress levels go down naturally because they've already been initiated. Is that a fair way to summarize it?
You nailed it. Yeah, exactly. It's the same with any other hormone flooding in our body. There's a max that could be in our bloodstream at any point in time, and if if the baseline is a 5 out of 10, and then you intentionally ramp it to a 10 out of 10, now you've used a lot of it up, and it can't possibly stay that high anymore. So it has no choice but to lower below baseline down to a 4 or a 3 out of 10 until it can replenish because these are all finite resources in our body that, replenish daily when we sleep and hydrate and nourish our bodies. So yeah, it can, in my experience, be like probably the biggest bang for your buck, cheapest, quickest way to reduce anxiety and depression. And it just kind of is like self-confidence producing, because you feel, same with the gym. It's like anytime you do something really hard that you don't want to do, your brain is starting to chirp to you like, I don't want to do it, this is going to be hard, and you just do it anyway, as long as it's like a positive thing for yourself. That does, infuse some confidence in you, and it spills over, whatever the next hard, challenging thing is. You're like, I know that I can do this because I already did the gym or the cold plunge. And cold plunge takes like 3 minutes. Gym for me takes like 2 hours. We're talking about
I'm sold. I'm gonna do it, man. My buddy said the same thing. He was like, dude, yeah, of course you don't like it. I don't like doing it either. But the fact that you afterwards, you're like, I did that. Like it feels good. Like that's the good feeling. So I don't know, man. I'm sold. Plunge.
Quick shout out to one of my biggest influences. His name is Hamza. He's a self-improvement YouTuber. Okay. And he always ended his videos with this quote called, do the hard work, especially when you don't feel like it.
Ooh.
And he speaks to that being the real key to developing discipline, or basically just discipline is the ability to do something you don't want to do. And I think that's, when we talked about what separates the top golfers and how they have confidence, it's the same thing. They feel that same voice in their head saying they want to sleep in, or it's too cold to practice, or they already played around and they don't feel like practicing, whatever the internal narrative is trying to make them not do what they said that they were going to do and what they know they need to do to be excellent at their craft. We all feel that to the same degree every day, and the most disciplined people it's like a video game, and you're trying to increase your stat of discipline. It comes from reps, the same way you build your bicep stat. It's like, how many times have you curled? The ability to override that internal voice saying, I don't want to do this hard thing. That's a learned skill that every time you feel the resistance of saying, I don't want to get out of bed, it's too early. I don't want to get in the cold plunge, it's too cold. I don't want to hit 100 extra balls, I'm tired, etc. That is practice at the mental override, aka discipline, that every successful person does have, because to be successful, you just repeat the actions day after day after day that lead to proficiency in that skill of business, golf, gym. And in order to do things every single day, you got to understand that everyone's life is kind of the same. We have obstacles and family and hardships that get in the way, but the most successful people let virtually nothing stop them from doing what they said they were going to do the night before. And I think that cold plunge is like it's very hard every day, or a cold shower as well. It's like always going to suck, and your brain is always going to scream at you like, I don't want to do it. And that almost in like a cynical, diabolical way, you can start to like laugh at that voice. Like, perfect. That's what we're looking for right there.
That's what we're looking for. Wow.
Not wanting to do it. That's my time to go do it, because I know I'm going to gain like 5 discipline points. And I know that everybody else out there that I'm competing with, whether I like it or not, I am, especially as a man, I'm in competition with everyone else in the world for resources, for jobs, for potential partners. Like, it is a competition. And, if I want to beat my competition, then acknowledge that they're feeling the same thing. And if I can do it right now, I'll get, 5 extra points of discipline, and that will benefit me in the long run. So
I love it. I love that, man. No, I love I love the narrative, because really, man, I told you before, I work with an executive coach. Shout out to Russ Kyle. So you give your guy a shout out. Like, this guy's amazing, because he talks about discipline being self-love. Like, as soon as you're able to, be more disciplined, really what you're doing is you're allowing yourself to love yourself, because really it's, as long as it's positive stuff. So he also talks about, you had mentioned like problems. He doesn't, he told me, everything that kind of goes on, the way that you're feeling is really the story that you're telling yourself. So, you can have negative thoughts, and, and that's okay. Let them go. Like, let them come, recognize them and let them go. Because if it starts becoming your story, then it's going to become like reality. It's just it's going to end up manifesting. So, he won't let me. It's funny, because I'll sometimes say, yeah, man, I've got this problem. He's like, it's not a problem. He's like, you have an opportunity. And so I'm like, and after a while, it's like, now I'm programmed, like, whenever I want to say problem, so dude, it's so funny, because like now my kids, like I said, they're sponges. So I've got them now. Like they're not allowed to say the word can't. Like we don't say can't in the Redding household. My last name, so we don't say can't. So it's funny. I'll hear my daughter, who's turning 6 this weekend, and then she's talking to my 4-year-old son, and Grayson's his name, and Gregory he'll be like, I can't do that, and she'll look at him and go, Gregory, we don't say can't in the Redding house. It's so funny, man.
That's awesome. Man.
Yeah, it's great, dude. It's great. All right, man. Well, I got 2 questions that are kind of silly at the end. I'm serious too sometimes, but I'm also real silly, and I love the silly. So I do want to ask. I ask everyone on our show these 2 silly questions. They're not golf related. One of them is, but they're not good. So I want to get to those. But anything that I can like. So do you actually have, because I want to sign up, like whatever you're offering, like if there's like if there's coaching or if there's anything that you've got like framework wise, like, dude, sign me up. Like, what do I need to do to get on board? Do you have anything yet? Are you working on it? What's
awesome?
What's kind of next in store?
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's it's like top of mind, number one thing I'm trying to work on if I can get out of the daily cycle of making videos and content and golfing. This online community, it's a website called Skool, SKOOL.com. Okay. And it's basically like a educational social media. And it's these little private communities. Hamza has one. It's just a self-improvement community. I don't know if there's really any golfers on there yet, but my goal is to have a couple courses inside about this sort of holistic approach to golf that I've been kind of refining over the years, which is just my belief of how to improve at golf, incorporate the gym, incorporate mental health and mindfulness and breath work and cold showers and nutrition, all these different modules of things that I have some experience with and have, worked with coaches or experimented with in my own life. So courses, basically video series and PDFs and prompts for you to sort of journal and create your own plan about how to basically build a daily routine and an action plan to start improving and solving problems in your own life. That, as well as Zoom calls and me bringing on some of these meditation teachers and breathwork coaches and experts in these fields that I'm learning from, having sort of lectures and community calls for everyone that's inside, as well as just like it's social media. It looks like Facebook. People post and comment, and it's kind of gamified. You can unlock more courses when you level up.
Comment.
The more things that you comment, and the more guys that are upvoting your contributions, it's so addicting in the best way. It's you basically you get in a group of extremely like-minded people that are paying to be a part of it. So they're highly motivated to engage and make friends and learn and go through the courses. I have been in some other people's, and that's what's got me so jacked on saying wow, yeah, this is the future. This is where the people that are using the internet for the right reasons, we're going to gravitate towards more of this private community structure. And so I think, honestly, within a couple weeks, I have one right now. It just doesn't have content inside, but I'm so committed to it. I'm actually paying monthly to have it, just forcing myself to get it together and do it more quickly.
Love it.
And so if you're at all interested in the regular content that I put out, this is, it doesn't seem like I can put that much depth on Instagram without it just kind of getting suppressed. It's just not the right place for extreme long form stuff. And at this point in time, I don't have a very sizable YouTube following or consistent viewership. So I think that this is the place that I'll be going all in on, for the foreseeable future, for the people that really want to work one-on-one, make like-minded friends, and, kind of get on this whole regimen and program of different things or any piece of the puzzle of things that I've been talking about. So my Skool community will be launching soon, and that'll be definitely plastered all over my Instagram and TikTok.
Awesome.
And right now I have a broadcast channel on my Instagram, which is where I keep putting updates and stuff like that in as well. So that's right now the best that I got for you. I wish I had a one-on-one coaching offer, and if there's enough demand for that, I could definitely do it. But at this point in my life, I think I've been doing that and just not really monetizing it, taking calls here and there and a lot of DMs and just didn't really get business smart or understand that not only is it beneficial to me, but it's better for others as well. When you sign up for a course or a private community, at least in my experience, that's when I really dive into stuff.
You have a gift, man. I've met you tonight, in person. I mean, I've been following you for quite a while, but you have a really unique gift in being able to deliver, your message where it's consumable, like especially in today's world where there's so much noise. But like the cold plunge is a great example of that. I had probably 10 people tell me about the cold plunge. It never really resonated with me. In like a 30-second video, I'm like, oh, I totally get it now. Like I see why I'd want to do it. So I mean, you being able to bring that and then systemize it, I think it's just going to be a great tool for people to hop on board. So yeah, absolutely, man. I'll be excited. I'll be looking out for that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That's awesome, man.
Cool, man. You ready for these 2 questions?
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah.
All right. Question 1, we ask everyone on the podcast. All right, man. If can a human being, and there's no right or wrong answer to this, by the way, can a human being eat a golf ball and survive? Swallow a golf ball.
Wow, dude. That's insane. I gotta believe that we're pretty damn resilient. So yeah, I think a human probably could.
Yeah, I go back and forth with it because I'm like, and you take someone like a big human like Shaquille O'Neal, like he's, I imagine he could get it down a lot. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I'm not a doctor, but I imagine, and then the way this came up is like my buddy Panda. So okay, I'll get to the spirit animals now. So we have this deal where we. On our podcast. By the way, I'm going to try to come up with the spirit. Do you have like a mascot or like a spirit animal like you've ever?
Oh man,
like
God dang. I mean, my college mascot was Mustangs. Maybe Mustangs.
Mustang. Okay. I'm thinking something like super, like an animal that's like super friendly, super like mellow, chill. I don't know. I'm gonna come back.
Golden retriever or something like that.
Ooh, I like that. Loyal. Yes. Like very. Yes. Okay. Serving like someone. Something that's okay. I like retriever. Yeah. So anyway, we've got all these for like our personalities on the podcast, and nice. and my buddy Panda, who's one of the co-hosts here, he's kind of a younger dude, but dude, the guy's a throwback. Like he is like a golf savant. He knows everything about golf history. It's just crazy. Like he knows certain golfers' moms' names. I have no idea how, but like he's got like it's just crazy. So anyway, he was telling me one time, he's like, we were saying, okay, if I get a certain number of subscribers or followers where I can actually do this full time, then I won't mention the albatross story ever again. And he was like, there's no way you're going to be able to do that. Like, come on. And I'm like, no, seriously, like if I can. And he was like, what are you going to do if you don't, if you do start saying, I'm like, I'm a man of my word, man. Like I don't. And he was like, nah, you got to have a penalty. He was like, you got to eat this. So this is the golf ball right here, buddy. Alex, I had to make myself my own trophy because no one cared enough to like they sent an email out at the club, but I had to make myself my own trophy. So look, I'm terrible at making trophies. Like this is the golf ball inside.
That's awesome, bro.
But he's like, all right, you got to eat that. You got to eat that golf ball. If you tell the story after you get the certain number of subscribers, you got to eat the golf ball. And I'm like, I don't know if I'll live. Like I don't know if it's going to kill me or what. So anyway, that's where that question originated from. So
that's
we'll
funny.
See.
That's funny.
All right, second question. All right, this is a little sillier, little non-golf topic, but dude, this one, I love this question. Are there more, and I'm talking about anything alive, like anything that has like life to it, okay? Are there more eyes or legs in the world? More eyes or legs in the world?
Whoa. I would definitely think more eyes, because doesn't everything has eyes, but there's snakes don't have legs, and maybe some birds.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know. Do you know the answer?
I don't. I've tried GPT and I've tried everything, dude. I cannot get to the answer of this. And like I go back and forth because you got a centipede with like however many legs those dudes have. You got crabs with multiple legs. You've got but then you got fish. You got all these fish out there, and I'm not counting fins as legs. Those aren't legs. Tentacles aren't legs. So I mean, like I think it's eyes because of all the fish. But I don't know. I love hearing people's take on it because it's 50-50, dude. You ask 100 people, you're gonna get 50 on one way and 50 on the other.
Yeah, those are wild questions. I wonder if there's like a story of anyone ever eating a golf ball that's out there that we could research and they lived or not.
So I've done some digging around. There's one dude. So there's one dude on Reddit that. And by the way, we're not condoning eating golf balls. Like, do not eat a golf ball based on Alex and Brando here. Like, do not. But there's some guy on Reddit that actually ate the golf ball, and I think it was weird because like the video was like you could see him like swallowing it. I'm assuming he's okay, but I don't know. Other than that, dude, I don't know. It's so silly. So anyway, dude, everyone gets so wrapped around the axle about like important stuff, and I'm sitting here losing sleep over if there's more eyes or legs in the world anyway. Hey, listen, Alex, man, thank you so much for coming on, man. I know there's a lot of other things you could be doing, and sharing your story, dude. It was just you've got a great one, man, and I'm really excited to kind of see what's next in store for you and following along, because I think you're on just an amazing path, dude. I really do. You have a lot to offer.
Thank you so much. That's really sweet of you. I appreciate that, and I had a great time. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, man, of course. All right, until next time, everyone.
Did I tell you about my albatross?
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Don't miss out on our upcoming golf giveaways and experiences. They're exclusive to our subscribers, and all you got to do is subscribe. And until next time, golf's easy. Think fairways and greens.
Oh, here we go. Come on. Did I tell you about my albatross?